This cemetery dates from the early 1900s when Terlingua became a flourishing mercury mining town. It served the district as the final resting place for residents and mine workers that succumbed to dangerous work conditions, gunfights, and influenza epidemic of 1918. Life was good, but could take harsh turns in the remote, untamed region known as Big Bend. The Terlingua Cemetery is still used by local community, evidenced by the newer graves. Each November 2nd, people gather here to celebrate the Day of the Dead and offer their respect to the departed. The Terlingua Cemetery is part of the Terlingua Preservation Foundation. Your generosity will help the foundation to continue to preserve and protect this important national landmark. A snapshot of Big Bend's history of the Chisos Mine and Terlingua. 1885 to 1900, cinnabar, the ore from which the mineral mercury or quicksilver is extracted, was first discovered in the Big Bend region in 1884. Several mines were opened in the Terlingua Quicksilver District, including the Studi Butte Mine, the Rainbow Mine, and California Hill at the Marfa and Mariposa Mine 5 miles west of here, where 76,000 pounds of refined mercury were recovered by the turn of the century. 1900 to 1920, Chisos Mining Company, established by Howard E. Perry in 1903, eventually processed and shipped more mercury than all other area mines combined. European powers began the first industrialized global arms race, culminated by the outbreak of World War I in August 1914. The war effort stimulated an increased demand for mercury, which was used in the manufacture of explosives. The war also disrupted supplies from traditional European sources in Spain and Italy, further improving the market of U.S.-produced mercury. This was the heyday of Terlingua mining era. 1920 to 1935, end of World War I. Lowered demand for mercury while ample stockpiles along with assumption of operations by European sources kept prices low. By 1927, increased economic activity worldwide exhausted the surplus of the Chisos mine, enjoyed a few years of profitability before the stock market crash of 1929 and the Great Depression reduced demand in a typical boom and bust cycle. This is the way their family and friends honor them, by these burials. I'll be sure not to step on the graves. You gotta step around.
What would happen?
It's just disrespectful. 1935 to 1945, though by many indications the recoverable ore bodies had played out at the Chisos mine. Look at this one. This one, he must have loved fishing.
What?
Said he must have loved fishing. Mr. Perry speculated that the likelihood of a second global war would stimulate another boom in mercury. The Chisos mine operated at a loss until declared bankrupt in 1942. In 1943, the Texas Railway Equipment Company, owned by Herman and George Brown of Houston, purchased the Chisos facilities for $81,000 and kept the mine open through the war, hoping to strike an elusive bonanza that never materialized. The site was abandoned in 1946 due to an uncontrollable influx of artisan groundwater into the mine, as well as the depressed post-war market for mercury. Goodness gracious. To a modern observer, living conditions in the early 20th century Terlingua may seem primitive, even brutal. For immigrant miners, Terlingua and the Chisos mine offered a distinct improvement over their native Mexico, which was torn by political instability and civil war for the first 20 years of the century. Though difficult at times, life in Terlingua was not all toil and drudgery. By 1913, Terlingua citizens had access to a well-stocked commissary, ice-making plant, public food and lodging facilities, erratic telephone service, dependable water supply, and U.S. mail service 3 times a week. The Chisos store attracted trade from a radius of 100 miles on both sides of the Texas-Mexico border, the biggest store between Del Rio and El Paso. The store enjoyed a longer lifespan than the mine and consistently yielded profits long after quicksilver recovery became a losing proposition. Work in the mines was hard and dangerous. Primary risks were falls, falling rock, and equipment failure. Ore processing entailed the risk of mechanical and heat-related injuries as well as exposure to toxic agents. Despite these obvious dangers, the global influenza pandemic of 1918 to 1919 contributed more to the growth of Terlingua Cemetery than any other single cause. By 1936, Terlingua amenities included the Oasis ice cream shop and the Chisos Theater for motion pictures. Dancers were held most weekends on the concert slab located 50 yards north of this exhibit. Hattie Grace Peters, local school teacher, said it all. "We had a good life. We made our fun." The Terlingua Cemetery is still in use. Families and friends of the deceased frequently come to pay respects. The cemetery is located on private property. Please do not disturb graves or remove artifacts of any kind. Each year on November 2nd, the town residents honor those in the cemetery with an elaborate Day of the Dead celebration. For the rest of the year, the evidence of this celebration continues to remain on display. A variety of coins have stayed surprisingly untouched throughout the cemetery. Candles, flowers, flags, and other paraphernalia also adorn the mounds or the alcoves. Terlingua is a unique town with several things to do. One of the things that we did was we took a Jeep tour with Far Flung, and we absolutely enjoyed it. Check that out if you're planning on visiting Terlingua and looking for things to do outside of Big Bend. If you liked this video, then hit the like button and subscribe to our channel because really, why not?